That's my fear. That's my.
So you're frightened that all this is going to happen again?
Well, I'm not frightened about labour because
No.
in my head, I think I will just be another cesarean. I don't feel like I can be in. I'm a complete control freak, and I think half of my problem with everything that went on is that I just lost control of the situation. I did MCT classes and I did birthing classes and I read every book going because I like to be informed, and the ethos, I believe nowadays, is for the woman to be in control of her labour. And the reality is you're not in control at all, in the slightest. And so I went into labour and into pregnancy thinking, it's my pregnancy, it's my labour, it's my baby being delivered, I'm in control of this. And I lost complete control of the situation. So,
However,
yes. However,
you know, we do like to keep you informed. I think it is important that women are kept informed.
I think, information is really, really important, but for me,
we couldn't we, you know, your temperature went up. We were trying to sort of keep it under control, but it ran away from everybody, really, didn't it?
The whole thing did.
But if you understand the significance of a high temperature, the significance of prolonged rupture of membranes, you know, the risk of infection to your own baby, and you give your consent for treatment for the antibiotics and the paracetamol, that is a form of control, isn't it?
It is, yes, when you break it down.
Yes, and if people saying to you what they're concerned about, whether they're concerned about you or concerned about the baby, what their plan is to help things along or to help you, to help you make progress, you can either agree with that plan or not.
Yes. No, certainly, So there's elements of decision, it's not my fault.
So that is a form of control.
Yes.
But what you're saying is, it is your plan. Things didn't go according to your birth plan.
Well, I didn't actually have a particularly stringent birth plan. I had only a few kind of things that I just wanted to have in place. I wanted to ideally use the pool if I could, but obviously that didn't happen because the place was so full.
See, that's the sort of thing you don't have control over.
Yeah,
how busy a unit is.
Yeah, which was a real shame. They were under so much pressure on the day.
Yeah.
And I think just the lying there whilst after Max had been delivered and they were obviously trying to get the bleeding under control and sort all that out.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, I remember saying to the anaesthetist, just tell them to take it out. If it's a problem, just tell them to take it. I remember thinking I don't want to die. So it was quite, because I didn't really know what was happening. I don't think I was ever that bad. I don't think I was ever on death's door. But I remember feeling like I was.
Yes.
Because Simon had gone, my baby had gone. I was just in that on my own.
And so were you feeling a bit shaky, clammy,
cold? Just scared. just terrified. Yeah.
Just scared.
Just really scared. Because like I said, everyone had gone, so apart from the theatre team, all the theatre team were there, but kind of my support, I don't know if midwife was still there, I can't remember. But I just remember thinking, my husband's gone, my baby's gone, but I can't help us, so they're taken away.
So you hadn't an opportunity to hold your baby?
No, not until I was in recovery. So I think it was a couple of hours later.
Yes. But they did control the bleeding?
Yes, they did, they sorted it all out.
They did give you a unit of blood, the O negative blood.
Okay.
Did they? As an emergency procedure.
I don't remember that at all. I remember them talking about it on the ward and talking about giving me transfusion on the ward afterwards.
It says 1 unit of O negative blood given.
So I have had a blood transfusion.
Because Group and Save not ready. Okay. So you went to recovery, then you saw your baby and held your baby.
Yes. Yeah.
And did you manage to do the skin to skin?
I did, I asked him to unwrap them. They unwrapped him again, and I've got a photo of me with him because the arterial line wires were all across my chest and he's holding on to them. I've got a photo. Yeah, he was a gorgeous little boy, gorgeous baby.
Was he?
Yeah, he still is. He's a right little heartbreaker.
Is he?
Blonde hair and big blue eyes.
Right. Okay. And you want a sibling for him now?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Okay, so after that, you stayed on delivery suite for a little while because of your blood loss, didn't you, and your temperature?
Yeah, and then I went on to a high dependency unit, I think, for
they looked after you.
48 hours,
Yes.
yeah.
They found it difficult to control your temperature, so they tried
Everything.
different concoctions of antibiotics. They talked to the microbiologists,
Yeah.
but it took them a little while to find out why.
Yeah. And why was it in the end? Because where I
It was
was
just Group B
It was just Group B
streptococcus that they hadn't been able to identify.
and I wasn't diagnosed with that until I was
No,
was
well
4
they did a
months old.
swab. Well, they did a swab. They did do a swab on day 11, I think, didn't they?
I can't remember.
They did a wound swab because your wound started to
My
ooze.
wound started oozing, yes.
Your wound started to ooze, and they did a swab, and they probably got the what bacteria, what organism it was that was causing the problem
Yeah.
from that.
Right. But then I was I remember being put on another antibiotics. Like I said, when Max was about 4 months old, he had to give me another better. My own GP.
Right.
Had to
So
go
what
back
happened?
again.
What happened when he was 4 months old?
I was still bleeding. I was still losing blood.
Right.
I think I might have ended up running into a period as well because I tried to breastfeed and didn't manage it. Max was lazy. He still is lazy, and he wouldn't latch on properly, and he wasn't sucking effectively. And I think with everything that I'd gone through, I didn't get much milk coming. I think my body was just kind of saying, okay.
So you hadn't made the association between
me
breast and food.
No, he just wasn't
Right.
really interested.
Right.
And then, so I tortured myself for about 6 weeks with expressing various different times until my health visitor, who came to see me a little more often than she should, bless her, I think she was a bit worried about me, just told me to stop. She said, stop it, you're torturing yourself, just forget it. Because it was the whole, I hadn't been able to do it properly. So
It's a control thing, isn't it?
yeah, hadn't been able to give birth to him properly, I hadn't been able to feed him properly. But she said to stop. So I did. And actually I was much better within a couple of weeks. I really started to pick up. And by which time I was starting to drive again. But then I was, like I said, I was still bleeding, not much, but just getting a little bit of loss. And then it ran into a period, I think, because then I also had quite a heavy
Didn't have a
period.
bad smell or anything.
No, just
Right.
was continuing to have a bit of loss. So, and then the doctor said, "Well, we'll do a swab," and that came up with Group B strep still being there. And then he gave me, I think, fluoxetine, was it? And that knocked it on the head. and then
You've been alright since.
yeah, I think for me, a lot of it, it's really, I find it difficult because I remember them sending me for an ultrasound while I was still in hospital to make sure that I hadn't had any placenta remaining or anything like that, because they were trying to find this root of this infection. So they scanned my incision when they found a pocket of fluid, and they did an internal scan just to make sure there was nothing left behind in my uterus. I remember this really nice doctor, he was a professor, he was really lovely, and I think he managed to hit me on the bit when the hormones were really awful, and he came in and told me how well I was doing, and I ended up blubbering all over him. So, because I was just, obviously I think I was about 3 or 4 days after Max had been born, so I think the typical baby blues kind of hit me all of a sudden.
You had been through a lot.
I had been, I give myself, a bit of a hard time about it maybe, but and then finally agreed to send me home because I'd had enough and I just wanted to be at home. Food was terrible and I just wasn't getting any rest. Max was really colicky and I just wanted to be at home. I was desperate. I'd been in hospital for 10 days.
And your husband was at home to look after you.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting no help at night. I was in a room on my own. The ward was so busy that they couldn't help me at night time, and I hadn't had more than 4 hours sleep in nearly 2 weeks. I'd had enough. I just wanted to be home. And actually, once I got home and got some help, got some sleep, got some decent food inside me, I did start to pick up quite quickly. But I always feel like it's kind of left me with a permanent sense that there's something wrong with me. I don't know why, but so I constantly now, whenever there's like a little twinge or I feel a bit ill, I constantly think, what's wrong with me? Must be something wrong with me. It's silly because I'm perfectly alright. And I know I'm perfectly alright, but it's constant little niggly thing in the back of my head. I think because I've never been back to the hospital and they've never checked me all over and go, fine now, all sorted, all done, all healed up nicely. It's all as it should be.
But you had your postnatal checkup with your GP.
Yes, I did. Although he didn't examine my scar and he didn't check me, really. He checked me.
Could you have asked him to?
I did ask him and see what he needed to do, and he told me he'd done everything he needed to do. He'd seen everything. He looked at my scar, I had a quick nosy.
Right.
But I don't remember him. I remember questioning it with the nurse when I went for a check. I can't remember what it was. I said to him, I said to her, like, he's not checked to make sure that my uterus has gone back down to where it should be. You know, I remember reading in one of my books that he should check to make sure my uterus was back down where it should be. You couldn't feel it anymore. And because I was just, like I said, I read too much. Probably my problem. But yeah, I remember thinking to check.
After a caesarean section, immediately after a caesarean section, we don't want to sort of prod your tummy too much because
No,
it was sore.
it was sore.
And usually by 6 weeks, you know, that's ample time for your uterus to go back down to its normal shape and size.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I know. But you know, like I said, I've just got this permanent thing in my head that no one ever told me that I was all well again. I think it's that.
That's what you needed to hear.
Yes, needed someone to say, all sorted, all done. So it's
But you feel fit and healthy enough now to think
Yeah.
about embarking on another pregnancy?
yes, yeah, and I'd like to give Max a little brother or sister. Sister would be good. My father-in-law's told me in no certain terms not to bother unless it's a girl. I've already got 3 boys. So, but yeah, yes, definitely. My thing is, like I said, I think I would be likely to go the route of having another caesarean. The thought of going through labour,
caesarean section.
a planned caesarean, when obviously they recommend is a good time to do it. But kind of what the likelihood is of the bleeding happening again and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Is that likely to happen again?
Not so much with a planned caesarean section because you won't have laboured.
Right.
If you think about your uterus, probably didn't contract very well because it was tired.
Yes.
So if your uterus isn't contracting and you haven't laboured,
Yeah.
you're unlikely to bleed like that again. Okay.
Yeah.
And things are far more well controlled.
Yes. That's what
if that's what you need.
Mm.
Okay. You will have an opportunity to speak to one of the obstetricians during your pregnancy.
Okay.
And they will go through all the risks of being pregnant, labouring, if you've had a caesarean section before. They will ask you how you feel about things and what you would like.
Yeah.
And if you say, I would like a planned caesarean section, please,
Yes.
they'll say, that's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
Because I'm aware at the moment, you know, there's a bit of a, you know, they do like ladies to try maybe and have a vaginal delivery again, or try for it even though they've had a caesarean. A friend of mine had a baby last year and was quite badgered about it, a little bit. But obviously I would really not want that. If I just
we won't
say
badger you. No, we won't be badgered.
Yeah, good.
No. I think if you've had all the information
Yeah.
and you've made your choice from that information,
Is
then
it
that's
possible
the right choice for you.
to get that information before I'm pregnant?
Yes.
Because this is my thing, is to know the facts, and for my husband as well. My husband was a little worried about it. You know, this time last year, he was not interested. He did not want to have another child.
No.
He was, you know,
So
I think
he saw the blood loss in the theatre and he was anxious
he was
about that.
left in recovery, holding Max, waiting for me,
Right.
and not knowing anything. All he'd been told was you have to leave theatre, and he'd been put in recovery and handed the baby, and it scarred him, seriously scarred him.
So he was quite anxious as well.
Yes. So for him, if I turned around to him and said, actually, we won't bother, he'd be quite happy with that. It would be me that pushes it and says, no, I want to have another baby. So it would be good for me to have the facts before I'm pregnant.
And it might be a good idea if he came with you.
Yes, it probably would be, yeah. I think, because for me as well, if they say, actually, well, you know, that's quite high risk, or that's quite high risk, part of me thinks, you know, I've already got a son, and I've got a gorgeous little boy.
Yes.
Let's not risk it. So if it's, you know, if they say that it's a quite high risk of something happening again, or it's that real sense of impending doom that I've got again, isn't it? It's terrible, but
well,
you know,
I can do that for you. I
Okay.
can request an appointment with one of the obstetricians
Okay.
even before you get pregnant.
Yeah, that would be really
To go
useful.
through even what's in here if you wanted. And they can go through all the risks with you,
Okay.
and then you can go away and think about it.
Yeah,
And
that
then
would
you
be
can
really
come
helpful.
back again when you are pregnant and they'll do it all again.
Yes, that would be. I think that would be really helpful.
And then you can make your plans.
yeah,
Okay.
because we're going on holiday in October,
Mm.
and I don't want to be pregnant, but we go on holiday because
No.
we're doing a lot of travelling and we're facing a 14-hour flight, so I don't really want to fancy doing that while I'm pregnant.
No.
So,
It'd be nice to know before you go,
yes, that when we come back,
you're going to make your decision when you come back.
Yeah, so that would be really good.
That sounds fine. No, I can do that.
Okay, fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. What I do, you know, before I this is what I wrote before in your notes here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I propose to do that again.
Okay.
Okay. And so everybody will be aware of how you're feeling and what your
Right.
concerns are.
Yes. Okay.
And it'll just alert everybody to make sure you get your explanations.
Yeah, because I think it's that real. It's left me with quite a lot of anxiety,
Yes.
obviously,
Yes.
and yeah, it'd be good just to,
Okay.
be treated with kid
All
gloves.
Okay. So we'll do that, and I'll send you a copy of the letter I sent to the obstetrician so you know that it's ongoing.
Yes.
And we'll take it